Hello, and welcome to any of you out there looking to brush up on inequalities or maybe review just a little bit. Today we're going to talk about differentiating our inequalities, knowing the difference between less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. These are just the four standard inequalities, but there are pretty cool other inequalities out there that maybe I'll get a chance to introduce you to. But for right now, let's just stick with our basic four. We have greater than, we have greater than or equal to, there is less than, or there is less than or equal to. Now, what I'm going to tell you guys is that the greater than symbol doesn't always point in one direction. In fact, we can read inequalities both ways, and this is the true way to master the inequality, that we can read either from left to right or from right to left. We're going to take a quick look at this. It all depends on which number variable you're focusing on and which way the inequality is facing. Let's take a look. So here, depending on if I choose to focus on the x for my first example or focus on the 8 for my first example, we will have both greater than or less than. What you want to keep in mind is how it's interacting with the x, how it's interacting with the 8. So to figure out if something is greater, I look to see if it's opening up to my variable a letter, or I like to think of it as eating it. So here I would see x, and the inequality is opening up to it, is greater than or equal to 8. So let's write that out in words. X is greater than or equal to 8. Now on the flip side, what if I chose to focus on my 8 first? Well, then my inequality is pointing the other way, and I like to call that pointy side of the inequality the back. And that's what's telling us if we have the less than inequality. If it's showing us its back, it's sort of shunning us, and it's saying, I don't really like you, you're not as important as me, you're less than. So looking at the 8, I'd say, alright, 8, and the inequality is showing its back to me, so that is less than or equal to x. I gotta erase that. Less than or equal to x. So as we can see, whichever way we read it, either left to right or right to left, we're switching between greater than or less than. The sign itself just depends on what you're focusing on. Let's take a look at the example below. Here I have -5, if I focus on that first, and it's opening up to it again. So -5 is greater than x. My inequality is eating it, it's opening up to it, so -5 is greater than x. Let's look at the reverse way. What happens if I were to focus on the x first? Well, focusing on the x, the inequality is showing me its back, so I would say x is less than -5. And there we go. Every inequality is a greater than or a less than. It just depends on what you choose to read first. Is it opening up to what you read first, greater than, or is it showing its back to you, less than, for whatever you read first? Now we're going to do a short little challenge. So at this point, I would like you to pause the video and see if you can transition between changing the words to the symbols or changing the symbols to the words. So write it down on paper, take a minute or so, pause the video, and test these out. I'll just wait here for a few seconds while you pause. 2 and 3. So hopefully you paused the video, and now you're back with us to see our end results. Let's read from left to right. X is greater than or equal to 9. X is opening up, greater than or equal to 9. Now let's look at our symbols. Well, if I choose to start with the x, it's showing me its back first, so it's less than, and that little bar underneath means equals to. So I could say x is less than or equal to 5, and that'll work out. Let's take a look at this one right here. 8 is less than, so if I draw 8 less than, it's showing its back, less than x. There we go. And now let's try reading my inequality the other way, because we demonstrated that, hey, it can work both ways. So if I start reading from this 3, I could say 3 is, alright, showing me its back, so less than x. And there you have it. That's the basics behind reading inequalities. Pick a side to read from, either the left or the right, and figure out if it's opening up to you or showing you its back. If it's opening up, that's greater than. If it's showing you its back, it's less than. If there's that little bar underneath, don't forget to add that or equals to. It's now about time to move on to graphing. So when we talk about inequalities, there's an infinite number of solutions to all of them. And we can see this by looking at a graph. The two questions you want to ask yourself is, will it have an open circle or will it have a closed circle? On your graph, you'll have an open circle if it's a strict inequality, meaning it's a normal, less than, or greater than sign. It'll be a closed circle or a filled in circle if it has that little bar underneath, if it's the or equal to. The reasoning for this is the shaded region on our graph is the good region. So if you fill in the circle, you're saying, hey, that point works, and it's because it's equal to it as well. That's the point that we care about. You'll be shading to the left when your variable is less than, when the inequality is pointing the less than at your variable, and you'll be shading to the right when the inequality is pointing the greater than at your variable. So we're going to take a look at this in practice just a second. Here we see that we've got 4 inequalities. I like having my number line with 0 in the middle. It'll be a good practice for later when we do compound inequalities. It gives us a good sense of where all the numbers are. Here are our important numbers. So I would have -3 right about here. I'd have 1. I would have 5. And let's say there's 8. Alright, so I've grabbed all of our important numbers. Now it's time to answer the question, do we have an open circle, do we have a closed circle, and should I be shading to the left or to the right? Looking at x, let's see, x is less than -3. I know I want an open circle because there is no bar underneath, and less than means I'm shading to the left. Take a look at the second one. Here, the inequality is opening up to x, so x is greater than or equal to 1. Well, the or equal to means I gotta fill it in with a circle, and the greater than tells us we are shading to the right. 2 more to go. Scroll down a little bit. Here we go. X is less than 5. That'll be an open circle because there's no bar underneath. And less than the variable tells me we're going to the left. And finally, let's see here, x is less than or equal to. We're going to fill this in. And since it was less than, we are shading to the left again. Let me know if this video was helpful to you. I hope it was. If not, keep asking me questions in class. See you soon.